Yeah. Since everybody's here, board members ready to start. First off, did any of you guys have a chance to review the P card statements or any of the other information that Joe sent home?
I just got them tonight. I'm going to start looking them over now.
I have not yet.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions, if you had a chance to look at them before Thursday, I know that it's not as much as it's normally in the past, just because we unfortunately don't have that type of activity on. So, and then secondly, Joe, are you ready?
Yeah, was Gary or Krisha coming? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Yeah, Krisha said she was.
I know Gary got the invite, so because I talked to him earlier.
I'll text her and see if she could if she's joining in.
I'm gonna send it to you. Okay, well, once she gets here, one of the things that I want Joe to discuss is the impact of our revenue from this year, as well, the revenue that we've lost related to COVID-19 and the Project 43, plus any of these appeals. I understand a couple of big companies lost them. So once Christian gets here.
I believe in his budget presentation for the preliminary budget, didn't he mention that we lost like $29 million over since the beginning of 2019?
I got it that day. I can do everything you can. I got it that day, and now I don't even think they make.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I think we just want to just rehash a little bit, because I guess we make sure we communicate the falling revenue that we're dealing with right now. Some of it expected, some of it unexpected, and just to put the price, what the effect was. And because Joe's also had to make some pretty tough decisions as he's put the budget together. And as you guys know, budgeting, there's also a little bit of guessing. It's definitely been affected by our tax revenue, not only from our real estate, but for income tax, because unfortunately some folks haven't been working and are not paying income tax as well.
All right, so Chris is here, so I'll get started. And what I thought I might do is just go over not the entire budget presentation again, which is viewable on YouTube, so anybody can go and watch the whole meeting, obviously, but just go through the highlights, basically the same slides again, and then address any questions any of the board members may have related to such. So, Dr. Hoover, you're going to have to make me the host so I can share my screen.
Give me a second, Joe.
Okay.
Which Joe Esper are you?
The one without a picture.
Yeah,
I know, but I got to do it from over. Let me.
There's 4 Joe Espers.
Yeah, there's 4 Joe Espers.
I think if you click on.
Okay, I got you. I think you should have it right now.
Okay, I am the host, so I should be able to share the screen.
There you go.
Okay. All right, let me get into the right mode. So again, this is going to just be an overview of what was discussed during last month's meeting. So the budget goals, which I went over: preserve the educational plan, approve a balanced budget, in the attempt to try to have a positive fund balance. So as everybody's well aware that this budget includes a tax increase of 0.88 mils, setting the millage rate to 25.3765. The budget has projected revenues at $54,077,421, with expenses of $50,995,350. Now the difference, which is $3,917,929, will be financed by a combination of fund balanced, fund transfers, and the selling of fixed assets, which include the Camp Hollow Road property and the money that we're getting from the Turnpike for the work they're doing around the high school campus, which was $192,000. So as you guys know, a couple years ago, we had transferred $1 million out of the general fund into a capital projects fund because we borrowed the money that we borrowed and did the upgrades and still have some money left over in there. There's no need for that money to sit. So on on Thursday's agenda, there will be a motion to permit me to move that $1 million back into the general fund. We talked about the fixed assets that we know we're going to get. It's just a matter of when. And then the balance is going to have to be made up with fund balance. Now, when I built the budget, I used some assumptions, but we'll get to that in a second. So this budget has a total increase of $1.832 million from the budgeted costs of last year, and we estimated revenues to decrease by $1.247 million and change. And where the debt service increase is minimal. Special education went up, our PSERS rate went up, healthcare went up, and the one positive, if you were, is that all professional personnel are going to contribute 1% more towards their healthcare costs. So, I mean, these are the real reasons, why we're in the situation that we're in. And given any one of these situations would warrant a tax increase, but we happen to have 3 of those. So at the beginning of 2019, since the beginning of 2019, the assessed value of West Mifflin from the time West Mifflin and Whitaker, we had lost $28,825,122 in assessed value. That was a combination of tax appeals. As you recall, Walmart appealed and they got a big reduction. And we had to write a nice check to them for 16, 17, 18, and 19. But what that amounts to is a loss of $706,115 in assessments. And when I say assessments, that would be the money that we would get, we would have gotten, at that tax rate. So in order to try to guess what the revenue would be, I took a 5-year average of actual or collection rates, which equaled 90.29%. So in a normal year, without COVID, we were right around 90% of what our assessments were we collected. So now the tricky part is what do I use as a collection rate? What is the effect that the COVID-19 is going to have on our ability, to receive what we've averaged over the last 5 years? So I ran a bunch of different assumptions to make it work. I used 85% collection rate for West Mifflin, and because the data is different that we get from Whitaker, I made a 5% reduction in what we collected this year, which would be around which would keep it at 85%. I had to make assumptions of, what other revenue are we going to lose? So I took 10% off of all other local sources, That would be earned income tax, business privilege tax, mercantile tax, and I reduced the Kennywood amusement tax by 20%. Now, the number that I used was what we had collected year to date. I don't know, I don't even know if that's a realistic, number to use. But
Well, and isn't their normal revenue $375,000 if they were
Yeah.
open for normal?
Yeah, it was 375,000. We had collected approximately 300,000 in this year's budget. So that's the number that I used with. They're going to reopen, I guess, in some capacity. It may actually fall. It may be worse than that. But again, we don't have the fund balance that I could really make it any worse. I mean, and whatever it's going to be, it's going to be, and we're going to have to consistently make adjustments as this next year goes forward. To try to limit expenses if these numbers are way off, and if these numbers aren't as bad as I'm projecting, we might have a fund balance at the end of the year. So, what did we do as administration? Well, in preparation for the COVID and, knowing that what we were collecting even this year was going to be affected, we froze all non-essential spending. This budget, and I said this in the budget presentation, it was as tight as I possibly could make it on an expense side. And, this board and administration in the coming year is going to have to explore, everything's got to be on the table as far as ways that we can find the ability to cut costs. Again, employee benefits are always a driver, special education and debt service. So if we were to collect all the revenue with this tax increase, it would be 921,000. I used 85%. So that's a net gain based on the new tax rate of 77,000. So let's take COVID off the table. Let's take the increase in special education costs. Let's just say everything stayed the same. If we raise taxes by that 0.88 mils, we're just getting back to where we were January 1st of 2019. Now, we're probably going to continue to lose properties. I don't know if they're done. We can't control additional tax appeals that businesses do. And, the way commercial real estate works is their assessed value is tied to their revenues. So, when Walmart appealed in West Mifflin, it was based off of a formula based on their sales. So they were able to get a reduction. So, if these businesses, especially our larger businesses, have a significant decrease in revenue, we might have many commercial appeals that we may lose. So again, the median home value in West Mifflin is $70,000. Whitaker, it's $47,050. See on the screen, that's what someone's property taxes would go up. And if your home was assessed at $100,000, that would be an $88 net tax increase through the course of the year. And of course, I mean, I've talked about all the challenges that we're going to have to face with all the various reductions of revenue.
One thing, Dr. Hoover, between this year and last year, how many special education teachers have we added total?
Last year,
Yeah.
I believe it was 25 total. I think we have 3 on the agenda to be hired, which would take us to 28.
Did we hire 4 people last year for 4 positions, or 3, and then 3 more this year?
Special education?
Yeah, were those just regular positions that?
I don't remember hiring 4 for special ed last year, but I could be wrong, Dave. I know that we definitely hired people. I don't know if it was necessarily because we hired all the reading teachers basically at the middle school. If you recall, we had to hire a science teacher at the middle school, actually, who just resigned, and there was, and I think Nina Ruffing was one of the ones that got hired last year. So I think she was new last year.
And one thing that we have to worry about going forward, I don't know, and Chris, if I'm not allowed to talk about this, tell me, do we need to set aside any money related to special education issues at the student level where the parents are exercising their rights because they believe their students aren't getting the proper?
So, Dave, we have dealt with all of those old cases that have been sitting around for a while. I believe that
Okay.
we have 2 currently, and I don't believe they're large sums to set aside.
Okay. So, Nick and Mrs. Ahern, I don't know if you have any questions, comments, concerns.
Here's what I will say, Dave, that, I mean, we're not the only school district or municipality, although, that's affected by this. I mean, every business manager is dealing with similar, issues of trying to gauge. A lot of business managers that I talk to use an 80% collection rate. So they reduced their collection rate. Well, I'll say they reduced it by 10%. Well, I can't do that because I can't make any more revenue. So, this is, what we used. Obviously, if we're running out of money next year, we'll have to get a tax anticipation note to make sure that we can pay everybody through the summer.
And I just want to be clear, Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make clear that some of the reason we're in this tax appeal situation is because it was ignored for a significant period of time from some of our predecessor solicitors. So we probably took a bigger hit recently because we had to pick up the ball and try to fight some of these when they were already far ahead of us. So now that we get them from the beginning, we hope that we're more advantageous to the district moving forward. And additionally, I want everyone to be aware, you are not getting billed for that. That is part of the $9,000 a month retainer that we are covering, that your previous solicitor was getting that same amount of money, but not going to these hearings that we're going to.
And I know that there's been some great work done by the staff of the Daromata and Cambest in finding money that was that we were entitled to, but unfortunately there's not a heck of a lot of it. But I think it's going to be run great. Going, we're working together with the borough and trying to do everything we can to, especially from a lot of these corporations that benefit from being located in West Mifflin. But then it's getting to the point of how much are we, and like with me, it's how much are we going to shift onto the taxpayers if you didn't ask for it. I am personally stuck between a tax increase versus children's safety and special ed, where we're not where we need to be with special ed. And that's no issue with anybody currently working here. That's just the historical issues that I think I speak for myself as a board member, and if any other board member wants to speak, is we want our special ed to be where it's at, and we need to recognize where we're at with it. And another thing is I personally do not want to get rid of the police department, because the police department's about keeping the kids safe from people from outside coming in and hurting them. And they built such great relationships with our kids that when I have to make the decision on Thursday, am I willing to save a couple of bucks for some people? I know because some people could hurt them $60 a year versus bringing in all these special ed teachers and ensuring that our kids are as safe as possible. So, does anybody else have any comments?
I don't.
No, just appreciate Mr. Esper's hard work. I know it was challenging, this being his first go around, and then you add in all the obstacles that, we're faced with that he inherited. And, I know it wasn't easy, and, just appreciate your long hours and dedication to it.
And then I wanted to just mention that Mr. Esper did a calculation for me. There was, I'd been questioned by people about the our move for information technology that we're sort of outsourced / we have a great staff in source about the effects on our spending. And because the reason I didn't initially vote for it is because I didn't want to make a change, but when they came forward with the opportunity to provide extremely high levels of experience with the current savings is $194,000 over 5 years. It's $40,000 a year or so. That's a teacher's aide, or that would help cover a first year teacher. So, and I appreciate the technology committee. I don't know. I think Nick's on it, and Mrs. and Matt leads it. I don't know who else is on it. That they went and looked at all our options of what's a great way to ensure that our kids, all the information is safe, and we're able to get a little bit of more money to reallocate towards education, specifically getting as many qualified individuals that our students need. Hiring teachers right now is definitely not a want, it's a need, and we're being driven by the state requirements to give these kids what they deserve. So. I don't have anything else, and I think this is probably the last meeting with Dr. Hoover as a finance committee meeting. So, Dr. Hoover, thank you for all your years, and I know from my personal experience with my older kids, you were one heck of a high school principal, and that's not saying you're a bad, administrator at this level, but you were pretty legendary as our high school principal.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dave.
I told you I will miss you.
No, I know, Judy. I'll miss you too.
The district will miss you.
We all will, Mark.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Take care.
Thanks.